Before I can even think about putting this on the blending board, what I want to do is get the twist out of this fiber. So it is, yarn. It has twist in it. It's a loose twist, and as you can see when you untwist it, there's a decent amount of fiber in here. But if it's got all this twist in it, getting it on my blending board is going to be difficult. And getting it off the blending board is going to be difficult. And it's not going to let me blend the fibers together at all. So what I need to do is get the twist out of this. And it'd be easier to just separate it out in sections than to try to untwist the whole thing. So that's what I'm going to do is just, I don't need this in yarn form. I want this to be loose fiber. So I'm going to take off a bunch of sections here. And you'll notice when it has the twist in it and you try to pull on it, it doesn't want to come apart, which we know from making yarn, that's what gives it its stability. So what I'm doing is untwisting the fiber and then pulling, and it comes apart. So I'm just going a section and taking some off here. And so you can see this already is loosened up a lot. There's a lot less twist in these pieces than this one, but they still have twist. So I'm just going to keep doing this. And I just want to get loose bundles of fiber that have no twist in them before I put them on the blending board. So that's what I need to do first. Just picked up a piece of plant matter. And yeah, I'm not worried about, there's these little bits of striation in here. I'm not worried about how those get spread out in here. It will be what it will be. And you know what it will be? Beautiful. So I'm just going to keep doing that until I get fiber with no twist in it. Okay, so I have all of the fiber teased out and fluffed up. And I do have a little bit less of the gray than the other colors. My thought is, well, a couple things. I'm prepping this to knit socks out of eventually. So I was thinking of doing more of the gray as just a solid skein, which wouldn't require all of this prep work. So I plan on later creating a separate skein of the gray. We'll see. We'll see what happens later. But that's the plan at this point. So I do have a little less of the gray than the others. It's just going to be a little bit of an accent stripe in the color sequence. At least that's my plan. So yeah, I'm gonna take the 4 colors and blend them on my blending board to create rolags. And the intent is going to be to make stripes. So yeah, I need to decide what kind of striping sequence I want to do and then just go for it, because once I get these into rolags, I can just spin. Just spin, spin, spin until there's no tomorrow. finished spinning the singles. Oh, it looks so nice. And so what I'm going to do is apply this back on itself, doing a chain ply, so that I can keep the colors with themselves in the hopes of making a striping yarn. So, oh my gosh. I'm pretty excited. So I've cast on the sock, and I am going to work this toe up because I'm not really sure how big to make this. So I already worked this and ripped it back because it was too big. And so I was doing 60 stitches, and now I'm down to to think about this, 52. I'm down to 52 stitches because I have 26 stitches on each half here. Hang on, let me count this. Yes, I have 26 stitches on each half. Multiply 26 by 2 and you get 52. So I'm working a 52 stitch sock. I cast on 24 stitches, so 12 on each side, and increased up, and then I've been working straight for a few rounds here because I don't want the toe to be really shallow. I want it to actually be the same length as a toe on any of my other socks. So I knit this straight for a little bit, and now I'm to the point where I'm going to start the striping yarn. So this yarn is the gray that I spun up to be just solid gray for toes and heels and possibly cuffs. I don't know if there's enough to also do cuffs, but I also spun this to be a 3-ply chain ply so that it would match the main color. I do think that this gray is a bit heavier weight consistently as compared to the self-striping yarn, but that's fine. I do have trouble with knowing how thin to spin the singles when doing a 3-ply to try to get a fingering weight yarn. I thought that I had figured it out, but I have not. This is certainly not a fingering weight yarn, but that's okay. So I am to the point where I'm going to start the main color here. There we go, that side looks better. And so it's going to start with this solid burgundy and then move through the stripes. So I am going to start knitting in the main color. I made it through one color repeat. Well, still a little bit more there, but I'm coming back around to the burgundy. So yeah, I'm so happy with it so far. It's definitely not a fingering weight yarn, but I'm adapting to that. So that's something I'll want to keep in mind in the future. If I had just plied this 2-ply, it totally would have been fingering weight, but I was doing a 3-ply chain ply in order to keep the stripes intact. So I did achieve the goal of striping, and that makes me very happy. I definitely didn't have the gray in between long enough to really go around the whole sock, so that's interesting, but I like the way it's coming out, and I'm curious to see how the thicknesses of the stripes look from repeat to repeat, because my Rolags were a little different in size for each one. So this will make for a really unique pair of socks, and I think that's really special. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep going and see how the yarn reveals itself to me. Well, I finished the first sock, so I spun up this solid gray for the toe and the heel, and then worked the stripes. I knit this toe up, and then I did a bind off in a needle 2 sizes larger. So I cast on 24 stitches, which is my usual if I do a toe up. And then if this were actually a fingering weight yarn, I would have increased to either 60 or 64 stitches. But this is definitely thicker than a fingering weight, so I only increased to 52 stitches, which isn't bad. It fits my foot nicely. So I used my cardboard foot. Let's see if I have it handy. I do not. I traced my foot on a piece of cardboard. I did so following the Fish Lips Kiss heel pattern, which actually is like a 15-page document with all kinds of tips and information about knitting socks and heels, and I would highly recommend it for someone who's new to knitting socks. I found it to be a really great resource. So I still use the cardboard cutouts of feet tracings to this day. But yeah, so I knit straight, and then I increased 4 stitches before doing the heel. So I made just the tiniest little gusset here of only increasing 2 stitches on each side. Then I worked my short row heel in the gray, and then up here on the leg I decreased those 4 stitches back down, so 2 on each side, and then just continued till my desired length. And then I did 10 rows of 1x1 ribbing, and I used a US size 1 needle to knit all of this, and then for the bind off I used a US size 3. So I just did a usual bind off in pattern, knits and purls, but using that larger needle size means I'm not making this too tight. So it's not like frilly and gaping, but it's loose enough that it's got that stretch so I can put it over my foot and leg. So now that I've finished that first sock, I started the second one, and again, I'm doing it toe up. So I have the toe finished, and I've got all these curly cues in the yarn. Here's a curly cue from the yarn sticking out. They're in various places. It's whatever, it adds character. But this is all the gray yarn right here. So this matches the same size toe as on the first sock. So again, cast on 24 stitches, so that's 12 on each side. Then increase up to 52 stitches, which is 26 on each side. And yeah, so I don't have enough gray yarn for the heel, so I have two options. One, spin more yarn for the second heel, which is a viable option, and I thought about doing it. However, I think I'm just gonna knit the heel in the striping yarn on the second sock because I still have so much of this yarn. I think I will have plenty to be able to accommodate that. So I'd rather just use all this yarn. So basically this is going to be like, I don't want to say a practice pair of socks, but it kind of is. They're not going to be perfect. They're not going to match. Obviously this one will have a gray heel and this one won't. I'm trying out this technique of creating my own self-striping yarn in this manner. So it is kind of practice, but I don't want to think of them as like socks I'll never wear. I want to wear them. I want to see how they wear, how they feel. You know, do I like socks out of this thicker yarn or not? Yeah, how the fiber holds up because this is a blend. Yeah, I just want to try all of that. So it'll be also interesting to try the solid gray heel versus the, you know, more blended fibers in the chain ply, and so I'll be able to compare those things, which is good. So that's my plan for the second sock. So it's not going to look quite as polished. I really love a heel in a different color. I think it looks very polished is the word I used. It doesn't interrupt the stripe sequence. It looks very nice in my opinion. But yeah, we'll get to see what it looks like on the second sock. So I don't have enough gray to go back around. It's at the right length anyway, so I'll just end up weaving in this end. So I'm now going to start the striping yarn on the second sock. So both socks are finished. All the ends are woven in, and yeah, they're completely finished. So the second sock, as you can see, has the gray toe, but not the gray heel. But because of the length of these stripes, I mean, it's pretty neat how it worked out to be almost half the heel in the white and a little more than half in the blend here. But yeah, overall, I'm super happy. It's funny that there's this really wide burgundy stripe here. And so the stripes don't all exactly match up. But look at this in the beginning. See that first burgundy stripe there? These aren't too far off from each other. These aren't too far off. But yeah, again, just adding to that. They're not exact matches, but they definitely go together. The ribbing here has a few more rows than the first sock because after I did 10 rounds, it wasn't the same length as the ribbing on the first sock, So I went by length. So I measured the ribbing here, and then I knit this to be the same length, because ultimately that's what I want, right, is socks that are the same length. So I did have to adjust for that, but other than that, it pretty much worked up the same. Pretty consistent yarn weight, yarn diameter, pretty consistent gauge throughout. I did feel like on the second sock, the yarn was overall thinner than in the first sock, but nothing to be really concerned about. So yeah, I'm really excited to wear these and monitor how the yarn and fiber hold up to the wear and tear of regular use. But all in all, I'm really happy with the experience, and I'm happy with the finished product. Out of this experience, there was one thing that did not go my way, and that was the very first rolag that I was pulling off of the blending board. I still have it here. So I bought a pack of dowels from the store to use for my blending board so that I wouldn't have to use some of my straight knitting needles. The problem is these dowels have no tapering to them or anything. And I'm trying really hard to pull these apart, but I can't get the dowels out of this fiber. And you can see I even started like trying to pull the rolag off here, and then I thought, well, let me wait and show you guys. So don't buy dowels and just use them straight out of a craft package to make rolags here, because I pulled this fiber off of there really tightly, and it's on here so tightly that I could not get the dowels out. So after this, I had to switch to straight knitting needles, which are made out of, I think it's aluminum, but they're slick metal, plus they're tapered. So I was able to pull the fiber off the blending board, and then I could slide a knitting needle out. Yeah, this made me very sad. So, yeah, see, this is just, this is so sad. But like, okay, there's a little wiggle now. But I can't, I can't get these out of here. So, yeah, either this fiber is just gonna go in like a blend bag to just get blended with things later, or this whole unit is just gonna go in the trash because I don't know how to get this apart. So, other than this, everything worked out fine. So those of you who use dowels with your blending boards, like, what is the secret? Are they tapered? Are they like polyurethane so they're slick? What makes your dowels work and my dowels not work? Anyway, I'm gonna try to get all this fiber off here because I hate the thought of throwing it away. It's still just super stuck on there. Ugh. Oh, movement. Oh. Wow, that's really hard.